Welcome, it's December 5th, 2024, and I'm speaking with Mr. John J. Jeckovich about his book he wrote approximately 3 decades ago, titled Their Mother's Sons. We're on chapter 21, almost done with chapter 21, we're on page 60, and it's titled Back Upstairs in Christmas. And there's about 900 pages in the book, and as I said, we have over 300 podcasts, so it's very interesting. If you want to go back a couple months, maybe a year, you can start from the beginning and go all the way up. Mr. Jeckovich, you're looking really nice in your new clothes today.
What new clothes?
Well, this sweater.
These are old. This is new here, yeah.
14 minutes old. I believe the sweater came from our old dear friend, Chief Billy.
So this is going to run the taking letter, huh?
Yeah. I sent a letter to Chief Billy.
Staff Sergeant, yeah.
Yeah, he sent that to you yesterday, and Chief Billy actually was instrumental in bringing the casinos to Florida many, many years ago. He's retired now and is living in Tempe, Arizona. But Chief Billy is a great man. He had some controversies.
We call him Chief.
Yeah, that's the Indian chief that sent you that.
Indian chief?
Yeah, Chief Billy is instrumental in bringing the casinos to Florida. And these are Indian casinos, and by the way, it's a direct reason why the casinos in Florida are run, maybe in title only, by the Indians, because this is basically reparations to the Indians. Because hundreds of years ago, the United States government stole their land in large numbers, hundreds of thousands of acres, and then basically wanted to kill all the Indians, so they attempted to kill the buffalo, so the Indians had nothing to eat. And so I always tell people, trust in the government, ask any Indian. Look how the government screwed over these Indians. So they got the casinos going in several states, and Chief Billy was instrumental in getting them going in Florida. Now he's happily retired in Tempe, Arizona. So that Indian sweater looks very nice on you, Mr. Jeckovich. Is it keeping you warm?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right, we got many other gifts this week, but this is the one we're going to talk about now. The other ones we have to pull out of the closets. So, how you feeling today, Mr. Jeckovich?
Good, top of the line.
You're looking well.
Yeah, I'm looking well, huh?
You're looking well. Hard to believe you're knocking on the door of 100. What's your dog tag number?
1424965.
Well, that's the code to open up the laptop. Do you want to start reading a little, or do you want me to?
Go ahead, read it.
All right, here we go.
Hitler's Last Day. You got the book?
Yeah, we got a little bit of everything. What's that? Yeah, and also the Indians were also instrumental in World War II. In World War II, the most well-known Native American code talkers were the Navajo Indians.
Yeah.
The Navajo Indians, very smart people, who used their complex, unwritten language to create a code that proved unbreakable by the enemy. So the Navajo Indians created codes, very smart people. It was unbreakable by the enemy, which is very, very important. Primarily serving in the Marine Corps and transmitting messages throughout the Pacific theater during major battles like Iwo Jima. Wow. So that is very interesting. The Navajo Indians played a very, very important role during World War II, making codes. You were in the European theater. Did you ever want to be transferred to the Pacific?
No, why would I be transferred?
Why wouldn't you?
The Pacific's a hellhole.
Okay. But after World War II ended in the European theater, many of the soldiers were worried that they might need men in the Pacific, and they were worried about being shipped to the Pacific.
Yeah.
Out of all these hundreds of thousands of soldiers, there was only one soldier that wanted to go to the Pacific very badly.
That was Patton.
Yes.
Patton wanted to go.
Was different than the most. Once
Yeah.
once the Battle of Bulge ended the European wars, Patton couldn't wait to get to the Pacific because he had a huge ego and he wanted to keep on fighting.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, Patton also fought during World War I.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then World War II, and then at the end of the war, I got killed by accident. But it was an interesting thing. He really wanted to get to the Pacific because he didn't want no one to take the glory.
Oh, yeah.
Right there and get it all.
He was fighting against Eisenhower.
Yeah. So, many people, we read yesterday the last will and testament of Adolf Hitler, and those were in his words, and it was very glowing. You think the man was a true philanthropist, the way Hitler was speaking about himself and how he did this just to save the people from the Jews, and his whole life was helping the Germans, which we know that Hitler was a very sick man. He had all types of physical ailments almost all his life, and later he was addicted to many types of drugs during the last 5 years of his life. So he was highly delusional. In his final days, in the pale artificial light of the bunker, Adolf Hitler continues to stare hour after hour at his map table. He waits for some sign that all will be well. So he can't sleep. He's on so many drugs and he has got so many problems. He's up 24/7. The guy's upset 24/7. He's determined that the war end on his own terms. So he wanted to beat the Grim Reaper. And by beating the Grim Reaper, he was able to commit suicide so the Americans and the Russians didn't string him up.
Yeah.
Because like they did to Mussolini,
Yeah.
they strung him up in a parking lot, bare-ass naked, upside down. Thus, the Fuhrer began a scorched earth policy. That sounds just like the man we're talking about. A scorched earth policy, wow. Designed to deprive Germany's approaching conquerors of any form of substance. So Hitler was finally realizing the end was near, but with his scorched earth theory, he wanted to destroy everything in Berlin.
You don't leave anything for anybody.
His orders were given to destroy everything. He wrote a directive. All military, transportation, communications, industrial, and food supply facilities, as well as all other resources within the Reich which the enemy might use either immediately or in the foreseeable future for continuing the war are to be destroyed. So he was destroying everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honorable man, honorable man. This is all Hitler can do, is prepare for the end. His attempt to cleanse mankind of racial imperfections is over, as will soon be his life. So he was bad from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
And as we read yesterday, his last will and testament, he thought he was the savior.
Oh, yeah, he saved the
He
world.
thought he was the savior.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What a disgusting swine. Wow. Wow. There was an interesting article about 20 years ago where an SS somehow got to the United States, and he had a very good business at a hotel. He was like a highly paid musician. He was getting paid a lot of money, and he was formerly an SS, and somehow he made it to the United States, and he's living.
well, they're all scattering. They're all scattering now, yeah.
And he was living a good life.
20 minutes.
How many?
20.
And he's living a good life. I think it was up in Boston. And no one knew he was from the SS. But one of his associates was a greedy man, and the greedy man said, if you don't give me X number of dollars per month, I'm going to go to the authorities and let them know that you were the SS and you were involved in these concentration camps. And so this SS soldier, which is very successful now, was giving him so much money each month. And the rates kept on going higher and higher.
Yeah.
So finally what this SS soldier did, he snuck into his office and he picked the locks and shot him right then and there, and that ended that. But the authorities later found out that this successful SS businessman was the one that killed him. So even though he wasn't prosecuted for his SS crimes, he did spend the rest of his life in prison for killing the businessman that was extorting money from him. But that goes on all over the place. Most of them are dead now because they're in the late 90s.
Yeah, they're all gone.
But there's still many hidden spots where the paintings that were stolen during World War II are still being stolen.
They were trying to recover right after the war,
There's still so many. There's so many. Okay, page 660. Mother was working, and I was attempting to get some sleep during the day. Normally a quiet period in the house. Sally was home from school for the holidays, which added to the confusion. Steve and Millie, I guess, tried to be thoughtful and considerate. So now Steve and Millie are over for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Steve and Millie, I guess, are trying to be thoughtful and considerate of my sleeping during the day. In actuality, they reverted to their normal mode of activity with all its disturbances. So they're visiting you, and they know you just got out of work, you worked all night, and they didn't quiet it down. They just kept up the racket. As a result, I did not get much sleep, which added to the charging and bad mood. I related a little of this to Delphine, which I called her that evening, and she was sympathetic and understood my plight, but cautioned me to be tolerant and not be temperamental, as I was only irked mother and throw the entire holiday period into a disarray. So Delphine said just to keep a low profile. Already I could see Delphine's concern for mother's welfare and her awareness of anything that might jeopardize it. I thought her consideration was commendable, and as time went by, it only increased, and it was sustained throughout my mother's lifetime. Mother soon became aware of Delphine's loyalty, and it was one of the many attributes she saw in her character that would bind them closely. There would be many times in the future that this would be tested, and Delphine never failed any of them. Now we're working our way up to Christmas Eve. The plan for Christmas Eve dinner at our house would consist of my driving to Buffalo to bring Delphine here on time for dinner, after which we'd exchange gifts and shortly thereafter go to midnight mass. What church did you go to for midnight mass?
We went to Holy Rosary and that Bullock Church, yeah.
St. Stanislaus.
Yeah.
Ironically, they were within 20 yards of each other.
Yeah.
Not anymore. I heard you went to church today.
Yeah, I went to church today, yeah.
Did you take Holy Communion?
Yeah, the priest said, look, he said, I'll put it out. He used to give me like this, but he said, I want to put it on your tongue.
Okay. Well, thank God for little miracles. Thank God for little miracles. Going to church, taking communion. We can't ask for more. Okay, here we go. There would be many times. Okay. Then, after a light snack, I drive Delphine home and return the next day. Christmas is sometime at her parents' house, and would consist of a great deal of driving back and forth. Great deal of that, okay. But I did not mind it as long as the roads were passable and no snowstorms were looming. I much preferred driving than sitting around and listening to Steve and Millie's condescending demeanor.
Yeah.
So you'd rather be in the car than listen to them.
Yeah.
That was an easy way out. I only regretted that Mother would be alone for Christmas with both of them.
Both brother, yeah. So Stevie was writing a book.
Oh yeah?
I didn't tell him nothing about my writing a book or nothing.
What was his book about?
I don't know. He never said. He just talked to Millie about it. He said, now, I've got a little problem here. I'm making another thing here. He made a big deal that he was writing a stupid book. And Millie said, oh, that's wonderful, John. Steve, that's wonderful, Steve. Oh, boy.
Okay. Lookie and Sally would not spend much time at home and would be gone the first opportunity that presented itself. Mother's only salvation would be with Steve and Millie when they went to visit Jimmy Duncan. So they're always going to visit Jimmy Duncan.
Yeah.
Or one of his scouting buddies, Ralph Engerstrom.
That was the scout leader, yeah.
Okay.
222.
Or the scoutmaster, Ray Forster.
Yeah.
Why Millie had to accompany Steve to these visits was, I imagine, to display his good fortune in marrying a college graduate.
Who?
Millie would accompany Steve when he visited his buddies.
Yeah.
And Millie said, I imagine to display his good fortune in marrying a college graduate and to be present their little act of unsuspecting friends. I told Mother the plan, and she suggested Delphine stay overnight for Christmas Eve, and it would be late and we got out of church. I was surprised at her suggestion, and it seemed a bit perplexed at my response, and quickly retorted that Delphine would sleep in their bedroom in preferably an honorable fashion.
Well, she didn't do it.
Okay, let me read on. I don't know. I explained to Mother that Delphine would never stay overnight and was without question for many reasons. She did not pursue it any further, but afforded me one more glimpse into the bond that was forming between them. Later, when I informed Delphine of my mother's suggestion, she stated it was warm, loving gesture on my mother's part, but that I was correct. She would never stay overnight. Perhaps in a little while, but not now, she stated. I admired her tenacity, and of course, I would not give it any other way. I did not see Delphine my entire midnight shift until I drove down to bring her back for Christmas Eve. It was around mid-afternoon when I reached her house and she answered the door. She was attired in several colors with small bright red poinsettias pinned to her lapel. She looked beautiful, and I gave her a quick smile of approval as she took my hand. As I entered the kitchen, her family was in the living room, and they beckoned me in, handing me an eggnog and wishing me a Merry Christmas. Was eggnog had liquor in it?
Oh, yeah.
Was her,
No liquor, no.
Was her family drinkers?
No.
Okay, good. Wishing me a Merry Christmas, Delphine was smiling, as it was to say that her family approved of me and wanted only the best for us. We all talked for a while, and surprisingly, I was not tense, but I felt relaxed, rather enjoyed myself as we chatted about many insignificant topics. So basically, small talk.
Yeah.
Small talk is hard. Small talk is hard. After a while, Delphine took me upstairs to meet her Uncle Frank and Aunt Mary. How were they? Uncle Frank and Aunt Mary.
Uncle Frank worked at Ford.
Oh, yeah?
Hey, he's a nice guy.
And how about Aunt Mary? Where did she work?
Well, she was sickly, so I
She wasn't
we didn't stay too long.
What did Uncle Frank do at Ford?
At Ford, he worked on the assembly line.
And he made a good living, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How old was Uncle Frank at the time?
Probably 65, 70.
So he was up there then, right?
Yeah.
We talked for a short while, and I felt I knew her Uncle Frank from seeing him come from work almost nightly as we sat in the car in front of the house. So let me understand this. You and Delphine are sitting in front of her house. Uncle Frank and Aunt Mary lived upstairs, right?
Yeah.
It was a very common practice there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Back then. And you would see him coming and going.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now that's painting the picture that I was looking for. Delphine's Aunt Mary was a warm and loving person, and I see the toll her illness was taken on her. You have a great memory to remember her. She had an illness, holy cow. We went downstairs shortly. That was the last time I saw her Aunt Mary. One drive to my house, I told Delphine once again how ravishing she looked. She had done her hair in a different manner, which was extremely becoming, and the two-piece suit she was wearing accented her flattering figure. She wore the ankle bracelet, which I again and drew it to me to her well-formed ankles and her silken legs. Her skirt was above her knees as she sat there, and I placed my hand on them. "Merry Christmas," she whispered. "This is going to be the best Christmas I've ever had." I kissed her hand. "Merry Christmas," I murmured. "This will be one of the many Christmases that we'll have together." This will be one of the many Christmases we'll have together. How'd that work out? How many years were you married?
69.
I guess it worked out perfectly well. I don't think you can ask for a better number. I mean, that is a long time. That's wonderful. Let's see. "This is going to be the best Christmas I ever had." And you said, "This will be one of the many Christmases that we'll have together." Apparently so. That was spoken from the heart in
Yeah.
a very truthful manner.
That was the first time you guys met Delphine, though, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Before
arrived-
Christmas.
Minutes, please.
7.5.
We arrived at my mother's house. The first one to greet us was Steve. So when you got to your mother's house with Delphine for Christmas Eve, Steve was waiting at the door for you.
Yeah.
The first one to greet us was Steve, which is usual condescending manner. What do you mean by his condescending manner? What would he do?
Well, he figured he's above everybody, but he wanted to be sociable.
Why did he figure he was above everybody?
Well, he's a college graduate, and he worked a big job, but he lost that job. He lost that job.
Yeah, but maybe back then, 70, 80 years ago, a college graduate had some meaning. But today, a college graduate doesn't mean jack shit. Doesn't mean a damn thing. It only means you either got a free education or your parents worked their asses off to send you to 6 years to get a psychology degree to go work at Burger King nights. That's about what it means. I could do better with a person getting a electrical,
Yeah.
plumbing, carpentry. They can do all that.
Maintenance, yeah. Pipe fitters, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they make good money. I think today's times, college degrees are very overrated unless you're extremely bored and you just want to do something. Okay, let's see. When we arrived at Mother's house, the first one to greet us was Steve, with his usual condescending manner. He would smile and almost grin at us begrudgingly, as if he had to overpower us with his actions. So he wanted to kind of overpower
Well,
us.
see, when he lived at home, he talked differently, but when he worked in Pittsburgh plate glass, he talked differently.
Yeah.
He accented his nouns and pronouns.
Now, give me an example.
Yeah.
Give me an example.
Well, he instead of saying, "How are you guys doing?" he said, "How are you people doing now?" "Well, I'm pretty you're doing very well. You're doing real well. I'm really impressed."
You got a damn good memory.
Huh?
You got a damn good memory. Remember that from Christmas Eve 70, 80 years ago. Holy yeah. So He accented the last part of his sentences.
Huh?
He accented the last part of his sentences. Yeah. I knew Delphine. I knew Delphine felt uncomfortable around him, but not for the same reasons I did. Indirectly, she felt inferior to him. By now, the second time she had seen him, he had impressed, so he thought. So he thought he impressed Delphine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her with his great wit and intellect. She did not quite know how to perceive him, yet she sensed that he was not what he seemed on the surface. Millie was a personification and extension of Steve's personality, yet she did not give the conviction or her polish that Steve had fine-tuned to almost perfection. She did all the customary rituals that a person would do to attain superior position and over someone. What was Millie doing for a living?
She was a dietitian.
She
She didn't work. She didn't work.
But then why the hell would she be a dietitian?
No, she didn't work, no. She couldn't cook either.
What did she do all day?
Go fight with her friends and that's it. But she couldn't cook for hell.
Not a good cook?
No,
How did Mother and Millie get along?
they didn't.
They didn't. What was the problem?
Mother,
Okay.
mother this, mother that. But Delphine go up to say, Mom this, Mom that. That's the difference.
She would greet you, Mrs. Millie, she would greet you with a strained smile and go immediately into some discourse and mention some of her university friends.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable. It was all well rehearsed with one clear objective in mind, an elitist snobbery. I love it.
Yeah.
Both of them, Steve and Millie, were so occupied with their persona they displayed that they had no inkling of what Mother or anyone else was coping with. They had no conception, and what is more, they did not care. So they put on a big front, but they really didn't care.
And they didn't have any concern for Mother, no.
They were self-second. Here we go. They were self-centered, and the facade they presented was actually their indication of who they really were. Delphine was not intimidated by Millie, for she could almost instantly see through her charade, and would good-naturally humor her and not take her seriously at all. Minutes, please.
Oh, Delphine wouldn't say nothing. Oh.
Okay. She never mentioned either one of them in a disparaging manner,
Under 2 minutes.
and ever disapproved of them. I knew she felt there was a distraction and at best left alone, and she would not fret over them. So that was it. When Uncle Steve and Millie came for Christmas Eve,
Mother hated it. Mother, they couldn't wait till they left.
they were pretty well rehearsed what they were going to tell everybody.
Yeah.
They wanted you to make you think that they're superior to you.
Oh, yeah. Then we had to go to church with them.
Yeah, but did they act like holy rollers too?
Oh, yeah.
Holier than...
Well, Millie's father was a priest.
Okay. And so how did your mother get along with them?
They didn't. I mean, she tolerated it, but she would wait till they left.
How long they usually stay for?
Well, Saturday, it was holiday, 2 or 3 days they were gone.
And where would they stay?
I guess they were staying at the house.
Okay.
They wouldn't stay in a hotel or nothing, no.
Okay. So they'd stay right in your mother's house.
Yeah.
Did they bring a bunch of kids with them?
No, they didn't have any kids with them,
At
no.
this time, there was no kids.
There was no kids, no.
Okay. But later, after they had children, did they bring all the children?
No, they didn't bring all the children. Millie, yeah, I can think back that when they brought the kids were small. Millie couldn't handle them.
Why?
She didn't have the personality for kids.
So who had to take care of them? Your Steve, your brother?
My mother did.
Your mother did?
Yeah.
What minutes?
18 seconds.
Huh?
Your mother did?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Well, see, Millie and Steve could They were on a high road or something. I don't know what the hell they were trying to do, but